In this video, I'm going to walk through over 60 of my favorite Mac getting started tips. This can be handy if you purchased a brand new Mac like the M4 Mac Mini for instance, or if you just reinstalled macOS. These folks are my favorite tips and tricks. But what if you're a seasoned Mac user? Well, chances are you're going to find several tips and tricks that will be helpful to you as well. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments section. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. But first, a word from our sponsor. 9to5Mac is sponsored by Mac Stadium, whose Orchid Desktop, a free Apple Silicon virtualization program, is the best modern Apple app development solution for DevOps and developers. Other Mac virtualization solutions either aren't built for Mac, they aren't easy to use, or they're not free to use. Sometimes, all three. With Orchid Desktop, there are no subscriptions, trial periods, or sneaky fees. Create and manage macOS virtual machines locally. Simply set your display resolution, OS, and launch your VM. And it includes support for macOS 15 Sequoia. Standardize your dev environment across your organization, and in just a few clicks, share custom images with your entire QA and dev teams. With Orchid Desktop, you'll never have to hear, "Well, it works on my machine," ever again. Click the link in the description to download Orchid Desktop today. Special thanks to Mac Stadium for sponsoring 9to5Mac.
Thanks for watching 9to5Mac. Be sure to thumbs up, click the subscribe button, and then enable notifications with the bell icon so you won't miss any upcoming videos.
The first thing I do when setting up a new Mac is to increase the mouse speed or the tracking speed, because as you can see right here, it's very slow. So it takes a lot of hand movement to move your cursor from one side of the screen to the other side of the screen. To fix this, you want to open up the Settings app, and then you want to scroll down and find the mouse panel. Inside the mouse panel, you'll see tracking speed. So all you do there is just adjust that speed to your liking. I like it 1 or 2 clicks from the fastest setting. So now you can see way less hand movement required to move your cursor just like that. But actually, I think that's probably a little too fast for me, so I'm just going to adjust it 1 notch lower. Next, we want to enable right click, because by default, when you try to right click, for instance here, nothing happens because right click isn't enabled. So in the Settings app, under the mouse panel again, next to secondary click, select click right side from the drop-down menu. So now when you right click, you get your secondary click, aka control click. Next, enable swipe between pages. Let me show you why that's handy. So in the Safari app, for instance, you have your back and forward buttons. That allows you to navigate back and forward between the pages that you've recently visited. But wouldn't it be nice if you could swipe on your magic mouse to do so? Well, all you need to do is go back to the mouse panel, click More Gestures, click the drop-down menu next to swipe between pages, and select scroll left or right with 1 finger. This allows you to also have swipe between full screen applications enabled as well. And I'll show you how that all works. So let's go back to Safari. Now you can swipe with your mouse just like that to go back and forward instead of having to reach up to the back and forward buttons. That's super handy, saves you time. But not just that, even with the setting enabled, you can swipe between full screen applications as well with 2 fingers. So when we go into full screen mode, you can use 2 fingers to swipe between full screen apps and 1 finger to swipe between pages. Now, if you're using a MacBook or an external trackpad, you also want to increase your trackpad speed because like the mouse, it is slow, as you can see here by default. So we're going to open up Settings again and then scroll down to Trackpad, select that, and then for tracking speed, adjust that to your liking. I like to have it 1 or 2 clicks from the fastest. All right. So as you can see, you make up a lot more ground per swipe than you do with the default setting. I also like to enable tap to click when using the trackpad. So by default, you actually have to press on the trackpad to register a click. See here, I was just tapping, then I press and it actually registers. But wouldn't it be nice if you could just tap on the trackpad? The nice thing is you can. So in the Settings app, if you go to trackpad, you'll see tap to click at the very bottom. So we'll enable tap to click. And now you simply tap on the trackpad like this to initiate a click. No physical click needed, just a tap. The next thing I like to do is enable 3-finger drag with the trackpad. So you can't actually use tap to click to drag a window. You actually have to click physically in order to drag a window like this. But if you enable 3-finger drag, you can drag windows without clicking physically. Open Settings, go to Accessibility, scroll down to the Motor section, and select Pointer Control. Then click Trackpad Options, and then enable use trackpad for dragging. Then next to dragging style, choose 3-finger drag and then click OK. So now you can use 3 fingers on your trackpad to drag your window just like this. I'm not clicking, I'm just simply dragging on the trackpad using 3 fingers. Now let's switch gears. Let's talk about the keyboard and enabling tabbing between fields using the tab key. By default, when you press the tab key on your keyboard, it only moves focus between things like text input boxes and the main window. So that means you can't actually tab to all the various options on this screen and select those options. Well, let me show you how to fix this. So you want to go in settings to keyboard, then find keyboard navigation, and then enable keyboard navigation. So this allows you to move focus between the various controls. So let me show you this. Let's go back to our control center. Now, when I press tab, I'm able to move focus between all these options. And then I can even do something like press the spacebar to select an option. This significantly improves keyboard navigation in macOS. Next, I like to set an export shortcut for preview. So the preview app is where you go and open, well, you preview things like images, screenshots, basically all sorts of different things, PDFs, whatever the case may be. You can open them in the preview app, which is sort of like a jack of all trades application to do so. What you're going to find is that you're going to often want to export items from preview. For instance, maybe you mark up a screenshot like this and you want to export it. Well, normally to do that, you have to go up to File, click Export, and then go ahead and save that. But I'm going to show you how to make a shortcut for export specifically for preview. So notice the name of the command, export ... under the File menu. You got to keep that in mind because that's important. We're going to go to settings now, and then we're going to go back to keyboard, and then we're going to click where it says shortcuts, keyboard shortcuts, right here. Now you want to select app shortcuts on the left side. And then you should see, well, you're going to see all applications, but then you want to click the plus button to add a specific application. Click the drop-down box, find preview and select it. And then for menu title, you want to put the exact name of that title, export ... That's called an ellipsis. Don't forget that. And then enter your keyboard shortcut. In this case, I'm going to use Command E and then click done. All right, so you should see it under the drop-down menu, preview, export, Command E, click done. And now we're going to go back to preview and then hold the Command key on the keyboard and then press the E key, just like that. So that's a shortcut to quickly export in preview. Super handy. And you can configure additional keyboard shortcuts for any app, in this case, Affinity Photo. So again, I want to make an export shortcut, but notice it already has one assigned, but it's a little bit cumbersome. Option, Shift, Command, S. Let's go ahead and change that up. So again, it's export ... But again, you can create a shortcut for any command in the menu bar for that app. But again, we're going to use export in this case. So let's go back to the settings app, go back to keyboard shortcuts under keyboard. I'm going to go back to app shortcuts, create a new shortcut, select Affinity Photo and application. Menu title is going to be the same, export ... And then keyboard shortcut, we're going to change it, Command E, done, done. A lot more simple than what we had before. So we can actually go up and verify that, go to File, and look, now it's just Command E. I don't know about you guys, but I'd say that's a much better shortcut command than what was set as the default shortcut. Text replacements is a feature in macOS that allows you to replace shortcuts with previously defined text. So click the text replacements button under settings keyboard, and then you'll see on the left side replace and then with on the right side. So you want to put in the shortcut that you want to replace. In this case, I'm just going to put an exclamation point in RI for right. And then where it says with, you want to put the text string or whatever you want to replace it with. So in this case, I want to replace this with a right arrow. So once I select that, you just click on add, and there we go. There's our text replacement, replace exclamation point RI with the right arrow. So click done. Now let's test it out. So I'm going to open up a note and then type in our shortcut, exclamation point RI, and now you'll see it automatically suggests the right arrow. But if I just press the space bar, it inserts that right arrow just like that. So a great way to create text shortcuts. Now there's another way to do this. I'm going to show you that a little bit later. Okay, so you definitely want to enable Touch ID if you have a Magic Keyboard, of course, with Touch ID. So to do that, you want to open up settings, click Touch ID and password, and then click add fingerprint. Now, chances are you already set this up, but if not, just follow these instructions. So quick press the power button twice to secure connect your keyboard. Now, of course, at the Mac Mini, that power button's on the bottom. Controversially, put in your Mac's password and then click unlock. And now you just lift and rest your finger on the Touch ID sensor repeatedly. And that's really simple, super easy. Chances are, like I said, if you already connected or you're already using the Magic Keyboard, you already set this up. But just in case, this is definitely something you want to set up. So click done. And now you can see all these things, all these features you can use with just a fingerprint. So unlocking your Mac, Apple Pay, autofilling passwords, fast user switching, etc. So let's go ahead and test it out just with unlocking our Mac. So we're going to go up to lock screen and there we go. So Touch ID or enter password. So you just rest your finger on the Touch ID sensor and it unlocks just like that. You can also enable unlock with your Apple Watch. So to do that, open up settings, click Touch ID and password, and then at the bottom you should see your Apple Watch. If you don't see it there, make sure your Apple Watch is signed in with the same iCloud account as your Mac. So when you turn that on, just go ahead and put in your password for your Mac and then click unlock. It's going to sync your Apple Watch with your Mac, and from there on out, you can use your Apple Watch to unlock your Mac and authorize other things on macOS. Now let's talk about the dock. First of all, how to disable the recent apps section in the dock. You see these 3 apps here. These are all recently opened apps. But I don't like that because I like to control what's in my dock at all times. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But to do so, go to settings, click desktop and dock, and then you should see show suggested and recent apps in dock. I'm just going to turn that off. I'm going to disable that feature, watch what happens, and those recent apps go away. But importantly, it does keep your continuity suggestions from other devices. Here you can see the Notes app suggestion. Now with that in mind, you also want to customize your dock app. So you want to make sure you remove anything that you don't want. So contacts, I never use that. Just drag it up until you see where it says remove and release like that. And you could do that with all the apps that you don't want to appear in your dock. Don't need maps. So again, just drag up, hold, and remove. So now the dock's cleaned up. Now let's put apps in the dock that we actually want. So I'm going to open up Launchpad, just click there. And then you just open the app that you want to appear in the dock. Now, here's the catch. If you open an app, it'll appear in your dock, but as soon as you close it, it goes away from the dock, especially if you disable the recent apps. But to keep an app in your dock, you want to right click, select options, and select keep in dock. Now, when you close that app, it's going to stay in your dock, even though it's closed. Watch that. See? It disappears. But there's another way to do this. So let's open another app. This time we're going to open up passwords. And again, if you close that app, it goes away from the dock. So here's the alternate way to keep it in the dock. You simply move it, rearrange it in the dock, and it assumes, hey, you moved this, so you must want it to stay there, and it stays. Just like that. Now you can see, go to options, you can see the remove from dock is the option. So minimizing windows into the application icon. So by default, when you minimize a window, it goes over here next to the trash can. And you can see all those windows, when minimized, they will appear there. So it doesn't matter what it is. It could be Safari, Affinity Photo, the App Store, whatever. Eventually, it's going to get pretty cluttered over there once you keep minimizing all those windows, as you can see there. And of course, you can open those windows, and then once you do that, it removes it. But as soon as you minimize it again, it reappears back there. That's cool and all, that works for a lot of people. I mean, it's not a huge deal, but here's something alternatively that you can do. If you go to settings, desktop, and dock, you can see minimize windows into application icon. If you turn that on, notice what happens when I minimize windows now. Instead of going over there to the side of the dock, it's going to minimize, as you saw with settings, it minimizes directly into the app icon itself, just like that. So watch, minimizing all these. So Safari is going to go to Safari. See it? Safari again. This is going to go to App Store. This goes to Passwords. And this goes to Affinity. So it all minimizes into the dock icon itself for a much cleaner look in your dock. But it comes with a catch. You can't really see what's open. I mean, you can right click and access the other apps, but you don't really get those previews. It's not as obvious as to what you have open. But there is a fix for this. I'm going to talk about that in just a sec. Now let's talk about resizing the dock. So if you open up settings and you go to desktop and dock, you can see a little size slider. Just slide that slider to the left to make it smaller, to the right, make it larger. You can make it really big if you have bad eyesight. The key is setting it at a size that works for you and that looks clean to you. You can also put your cursor over this little separator and click and slide to readjust the size of the dock as well. So either way works. You can also change the position of the dock. So open up settings under desktop and dock. You should see position on screen. Click here, you see the 3 options, left, bottom, and right. So if I choose left, the dock is on the left side. And if you choose right, the dock's on the right side. I personally have long used the left side dock, and there's various reasons why I choose to do this. I think it's technically the best way to orient your dock because it gives you more horizontal real estate to work with. But that's just my personal opinion. A lot of people have differing opinions on this whole sort of thing. But as you can see, when you minimize the apps, they go into the dock on the left side of the screen. You can also change the position by right-clicking on that little bar and then select position on screen. You can also automatically hide and show the dock. So in settings under desktop and dock, you should see automatically hide and show the dock. Enable that switch and look what happens. The dock goes away, turn it off, the dock comes back. So I'm gonna keep it on. And then what you do is you just put your mouse down at the bottom to make the dock temporarily reappear. And then as soon as you move your mouse, it goes away. You can also right click on that bar to turn hiding on or off from there as well. You can also add web apps to the dock. So here I have Safari open with Threads. If I go up to File, I can select Add to Dock, and then you'll see the Add to Dock dialog with the name of the app, the URL, and the icon. So just click Add, and look, it adds Threads directly to the dock with its own icon. Looks just like a regular application. It even appears in Launchpad, and you also get notifications. So let's go ahead and open that up. You can see the little indicator lights even there, but here you see notifications, so you can allow notifications for Threads if you want to, and you even get menu bar options. Use DockMate to preview minimize windows. So remember I was telling you when you minimize an application into its icon, the downside of that or the catch is that you didn't really get a nice preview of what was actually running. Well, DockMate is a paid utility. It's $15. They have nothing to do with this video, but I just like it because it, as you can see there, allows you to get previews of all your open apps, even if they're minimized into the application icon. You get these nice little preview windows. You just click on them to open up the respective app. You even get some more advanced things to do with the music app and calendar. It's a nice way to get those previews back. Now let's talk about Finder. Using double click to fill windows. You can do that now. So previously when you would double click a window right here in the title bar, it would perform what they call a zoom in macOS. And a zoom does not mean filling the entire screen with that particular application. It means zooming in based on the real estate, and there's other little parameters that are involved there. What's actually within the window, and here it's gonna zoom in vertically. You double click again, it zooms out, and then you double click again, and it zooms back in to try to show all the content within that window. So that is cool, but to me, I find it much more handy to just maximize a window when you double click the title bar. So to do that, you go to settings, desktop and dock, and you should see this option here. Double click a Windows title bar too. Now you will see a new fill option that's new in macOS Sequoia. So choose that fill option. Now watch what happens when I double click the title bar of any application here. Finder, double click, and it maximizes to fill that window. Now keep in mind, this is not going full screen like you do on macOS. That's completely different, but this is a way to quickly fill the screen with your specific application without actually making it a full screen app, which of course, full screen apps work a lot differently than an app that has been maximized to fill up all that real estate. So it's a cool new feature in macOS Sequoia. Stop showing the desktop when clicking the wallpaper. So when you click wallpaper, it shows the desktop by default in macOS. I do not like that at all. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but that's not how macOS always used to work. This is more of a recent addition. Go to settings, go to desktop and dock, and then under desktop and stage manager, you should see where it says click wallpaper to reveal desktop. By default, it's set to always. Choose only in stage manager. Now, when you click the desktop, it's not going to automatically reveal your wallpaper. You can thank me later. Set up hot corners. So this is definitely something I highly recommend you do at macOS. Hot corners allow you to do some really cool things by moving your cursor to one of the 4 corners on your Mac. So to do that, you want to go to settings, desktop and dock, scroll all the way to the bottom and then click where it says hot corners there. Once you do that, you're going to see this little window. And each of these little sections represents a corner. So the bottom left represents the bottom left corner. So I'm going to choose desktop there. Upper left, choose launchpad there. Upper right, I choose mission control. And for bottom right, I choose put display to sleep. You can change those to however you want to, but those are my settings. Click done, and then go ahead and test it out. So move your cursor to the bottom left-hand corner. You see it shows the desktop. So that's a quick way to get to anything on your desktop just by moving your mouse to that corner. Now in the upper left-hand corner, you can show your launchpad. I know a lot of people think launchpad is unnecessary. I personally have always kind of liked it. And then in the upper right-hand corner, mission control. So that shows all the open windows that you have there. Mission control, very slept on feature, I think. You can use that also to open up different desktops if you want to, switch between those desktops using a swipe. And then finally, I have the ability to put the display to sleep just by moving your mouse to the bottom right-hand corner. Now, one of the new features in macOS Sequoia is the new window tiling feature that's built right into macOS. So if you go up to Window, Move and Resize, you see all the various tiling options. So you have halves, you have quarters, you have arrange. So this is a way to give you much more control in macOS without going full screen or using split view or any of that. So here you can see I can use those keyboard shortcuts to move this window to the left, right, down, at the bottom, at the top. And I can do that with any window within macOS, right? I can also arrange in these various views, but notice the margins, the little space, the little gap between those windows. That's for some people annoying. And I'm going to show you how to disable those margins. So go to Settings, Desktop, and Dock, then scroll down until you see under Windows, tiled windows have margins. So this is enabled by default. Some people may like those margins because it kind of shows the desktop underneath, but other people may not like it. So I'm just going to turn that off and show you what it looks like now that we have margins disabled. So let's go ahead and show you 2-up view. And you can see those margins in between are gone. Just like that. Pretty cool. Enable stacks on desktop. Have you ever seen someone have a desktop that looks like this? Admit it. You do that, don't you? But seriously, there's a quick and easy way to clean this up. Right click on the desktop, choose Use Stacks, and watch what happens. Bam. So all those icons are moved to what macOS calls a stack of the respective kind. So you have your documents, you have your images, you have movies, screenshots. It will organize all those by kinds. You can organize by other parameters, but I like it by kinds, and that quickly cleans up your desktop. Make new Finder windows show the desktop. So by default, when you open up a new Finder window, it shows your recent applications, and that's cool. Like, I get it, why you may think that's handy, but for me personally, I don't like that. I prefer it to open up the desktop. So let me show you how to do that. So go up to Finder, Settings, and then you should see here, New Finder windows show, and then choose the folder you want. In this case, I like to choose desktop. So anytime I open up a new Finder window, it's going to open up a Finder window showing my local desktop. Configure the Finder sidebar. So the little sidebar right here on the Finder has all sorts of shortcuts to various areas. Let's configure that. So go up and click Finder in the menu bar, select Settings, and then click where it says Sidebar. So here you see all the various areas. I just want to enable like things like movies, music, pictures, Jeff. That's my user folder. I like to enable my actual computer. So Jeff's Mac Mini. I like to check hard disk so it shows all the hard disk. I do like to disable recent tags. I'm not using connected servers, so I'll uncheck that. Uncheck Bonjour, cloud storage, CDs, DVDs. I also like to uncheck where it says shared. I don't want that. You can customize this to however you want it, but this is the way I like my personal Finder window to look on the sidebar. Add hard disk to desktop. So still in your Finder settings, go back to General and then click where it says hard disk, and you'll notice it adds your Macintosh HD to your desktop. Keep folders on top when sorting by name. So in your Finder settings, click where it says Advanced, and then you'll see Keep Folders on Top. So I like to do so in Windows when sorting by name and on the desktop. So we'll just click on both of those to enable them. And what this will do is it'll make all the folders appear first, even when sorting by name. So obviously U for utilities isn't first alphabetically, but it still appears first because it's a folder. Make searches use the current folder. So go up to your menu bar, click Finder, click Settings, go to Advanced, and then at the bottom you see when performing a search, by default it's set on Search This Mac. Choose Search the Current Folder. And yes, I know I say folder weird. I don't need you to tell me in the comments. It's all good. All right, so what this will do is that whenever you perform a search, for instance, I'm going to search in applications, by default, it used to just search your entire Mac when searching here, but now it will search directly in the folder that you're in this case, applications first. You can always go back and search your other areas if you wish, but first and foremost, it searches the folder that you're in. It just makes more sense that way to me. Add user library to sidebar. So in the menu bar for Finder, click Go, and then hold the Option key. You're going to see library appear when you do that. So click library, and as you can see, it contains all sorts of configuration, more advanced things like application support preferences. I like to sort it by columns, and then that allows me to drag, as you can see, that library folder is hidden, but I can drag that library folder directly to my Finder sidebar's favorites, just like that. So now I can access the library at any time. Whenever I open my Finder, I don't have to go up to Go and hold Option or any of that. And now, obviously, library is probably going to be something you're using if you're a more advanced macOS user, but it contains things like preferences for all the various applications on your Mac. So if you're having problems with a particular app, you can trash those preferences and rebuild them. Or you have application support where there's other settings pertaining to various apps like DockMate that we just showed you. You can see the log for DockMate is there. More advanced stuff here, but it's nice to have that quick access. Enable the Finder status bar. So open a Finder window, go up to menu bar, click View, and then click Show Status Bar. You can see the status bar appear at the bottom of the screen. It shows you how many items are in the current window and the overall space available for that particular drive. So you can see I have one item selected, or it'll tell you have 6 items selected, and it's great for telling you how many files are in a particular folder. Now here's sort of an unrelated bonus tip. If you hold the Option key on your keyboard, you get this. This is your path, your current path of this particular folder, and it allows you to quickly jump to different areas within macOS. So if I go to movies, for instance, and I hold Option, I can see it's in the user Jeff movies folder. And then I can jump to any of those. If I want to jump just directly to users, I can just click users and it goes right there. But where this really gets handy is when you're super deep in a directory. So if I go to library and I go to application support, and then I go to Animoji, and then go to images, you can see that's a pretty long path. You can see exactly where you are at any time, and then quickly jump to any of the folders listed there. If you appreciate that bonus tip, let me know down below in the comments section and leave a thumbs up. Use Yoink to move files efficiently. So Yoink is a paid app. It's not related to this video. They didn't sponsor it or anything like that, but Yoink is a must-have. It's one of the first things I ever download when I reinstall macOS. You can find it on the Mac App Store. Once you download it, I can't remember how much it is, but it's not much, especially for what it does and how useful it is and how much time it can save you. So go up to the menu bar, click the Yoink settings, and then make sure you enable launch Yoink at login. I uncheck occasional reminder, and then for show menu bar icon, I'm going to disable that. But first I want to change the window position to the right center of the screen like this. Now, once I do that, I can go ahead and uncheck show menu bar icon, so just hiding Yoink. So you don't really know it's there until you need to use it. So what Yoink does, it allows you, it is basically a temporary holding spot for files. So I can drag these files like that, and then Yoink appears when I drag them, and I can just drop them off like that. It's like a virtual babysitter for your files when you need to change folders or applications, but you still need to work with those particular files. Now I can drag those files back into a different folder just like that. Super handy. Auto hide the menu bar. So just like you can auto hide your dock, you can auto hide the menu bar by going to Settings, Control Center, and then scrolling all the way down until you see automatically hide and show the menu bar. Click the drop down list and change in full screen only to always, and you'll see the menu bar disappear automatically. So similar to the dock, all you do is move your mouse cursor up to the menu bar to reveal it. And when you move it away, it goes away. Just like this. Add volume controls to the menu bar. So by default, the volume controls reside in the Control Center panel. But all you need to do is click and drag sound out to the menu bar like this to create a volume control directly in the menu bar that you can access with a single click. Here's a bonus tip. If you hold Option, you get access to not only your output, but your input as well. So you can change input or output right there from that menu. Enable battery percentage on MacBook. So obviously this doesn't apply to desktop Mac users, but if you click the battery icon in the MacBook's menu bar, you'll see the battery percentage. But what if you want to view the percentage right in the menu bar without clicking? Well, simply open up Settings, go to Control Center, and under Battery, enable the Show Percentage toggle like this. So now, whenever you view the menu bar, you'll always see the battery percentage. remove Spotlight from the menu bar. So of course, Spotlight is the search utility for macOS. You'll see a shortcut for it, the little magnifying glass in the menu bar. When you click that, it reveals Spotlight. But you have Command Space on your keyboard to reveal Spotlight as well. So it's kind of redundant. So as you can see, you can search throughout macOS with Spotlight search. And again, using Command Space is your shortcut to get to that. Now, because I use Command Space, I'm going to hold Command and drag the Spotlight search out of the menu bar. We don't need that anymore. It's redundant because we use Command Space. Now I'm going to show you a more powerful Spotlight alternative. Use Alfred to improve productivity. So like I was saying, there is a Spotlight alternative called Alfred, and it's actually not the only Spotlight alternative out there. There's many of them, Raycast being one of them, but Alfred is my favorite. Alfred is a free app to download, but there is a approximately $43 component called the Power Pack that allows you to do way more advanced things, and I definitely recommend it. I actually purchased the more expensive lifetime version because I use it so much. But as you can see here, you have custom web searches. So what this lets you do is build web searches that are customized, just like this. So I made one for 9 to 5 Mac, and what this allows me to do, after invoking Alfred, just type 9 space and then put in my search query, and that searches 9 to 5 Mac, just like that. And that's just a basic custom search and just a fragment of everything that this powerful app can do. Let me show you something else it can do that I find handy. So you have a clipboard history. That's something that you don't get by default on macOS. I'm going to keep my clipboard history for 3 months, and it basically allows me to access anything I copied at any time right there from Alfred, as you can see there. That can be super handy. And then finally, I want to show you snippets. So like the text replacements I showed you, this is like a more powerful version of that. So I'm going to add a new snippet. I'm just going to call it right arrow. So we're going to just make the same one that we made previously. But this time I'm going to use a different, obviously, shortcut. And then the snippet, just put in the right arrow again. And you can add like certain variables to this to position the cursor in certain places. It's really crazy, right? But let's go ahead and test it out. The cool thing is it auto expands. Bam, like that. Whereas the text replacements, you have to actually confirm by pressing the space bar. That's the difference. But with Alfred, it auto expands. Now, because I prefer using Alfred over Spotlight search, I go into keyboard and then go to keyboard shortcuts, and then go to Spotlight, and I change the Spotlight search shortcut to Option Space so that I still have access to Spotlight when I need it, but I prefer to map Command Space to Alfred since that's my primary. So let's go back to Alfred Preferences, and I change the Alfred hotkey to Command Space instead of Option Space. So now Command Space, Alfred, Option Space, Spotlight. Command Space Alfred. Configure App Store to install large apps to an external disk. This is something new. So here in the Mac App Store, you'll find apps that can get fairly large. This is 15 gigabytes. Granted, it's a game. Same thing goes for Mist. It's like 10 gigabytes, but even applications like Final Cut Pro can get fairly large. So in the menu bar, click on App Store, select Settings, and now you're going to see a new setting called Download and Install Large Apps to a Separate Disk. So apps larger than 1 gigabyte will be downloaded and installed to the disk you choose. In this case, I'm going to choose my media disk, and it's going to automatically create an applications folder on that disk. So now when I download large applications, like Final Cut Pro, for instance, it's going to save that not on the local disk, but on the external disk. And for a Mac Mini, for instance, with 256 gigabytes of storage, that is a really big deal. Like, you're saving tons of space this way because now everything's saved out to the media folder under applications, just like this. So you can see these are some large apps, 3 gigabytes, 5 gigabytes, 12, 13 gigabytes. So you're saving tons of space this way. And this is something a long time coming to Mac OS. Now, there are some things to keep in mind with this. First, of course, you have to have that external drive connected to launch those apps, but also you're not going to find these apps within the Launchpad, for instance. They don't store here, or they're not found there, but you can drag these applications from your external drive to the dock, for instance, and it will launch that application right from the dock from that external drive. And you can see right here is asking macOS for access to that external drive to launch Final Cut Pro. customize your computer name. So by default, the name of your computer is the name of your user followed by the device type. So in this case, Jeff's Mac Mini. But if you go to About, you'll see name there. It looks like you can't even edit that, but actually if you click in there, you can actually edit that name right from there. So I just deleted Jeff and kept it Mac Mini, and you can see the change applies immediately. But what's really cool is that this also affects the local host name on your network. So if you go to general sharing and scroll down to local host name, you'll see those changes applied there as well. Disable screenshot floating thumbnail. So if you use Command-Shift-3 to take a screenshot, you'll see that thumbnail appear for a few seconds in the bottom right-hand corner before it's actually saved to the desktop. Sometimes you just don't want that. You just want it immediately on the desktop so you can get to going with your workflow. But the cool thing about having that little floating thumbnail is you can quickly just simply drag that to an application, for instance, and then start marking it up or whatever the case may be. So there are advantages. For instance, you can also right click and open up and preview photos or start marking it up immediately. So there are benefits to the floating thumbnail. I just don't prefer it and I like to get rid of it. So let me show you how to do just that. So if you Command-Shift-5, that brings up the screenshot interface, and that's where you'll find your options to change how screenshots work. You'll find Show Floating Thumbnail. Just simply uncheck that, exit out of the screenshot interface, and take a screenshot. Now you see that screenshot appear directly on the desktop immediately. And like I said, I prefer it this way. Disable screenshot shadow and save files as JPEG. So if you use Command-Shift-4 to take a screenshot, that gives you the window interface, and that allows you to drag your cursor to define the screenshot area. But if you mouse over an element, press the spacebar, and then click, you can take a screenshot of just that element, but you're going to notice a difference between these two. So here's the one with just the element, and you see the shadow around that screenshot. So that's actually part of the image. That shadow, it's a part of the image. So that's not always desirable depending on how you plan on using the image. I post a lot of these on 9to5mac.com, and those shadows just don't work very well with blogging, for instance. So I like to get rid of those. You may want to get rid of them as well. But there's one other thing that I wanted to change, and that's the file type. So by default, the screenshots are saved as PNG files. And while that's good in some instances, it can cause a problem with very complex images with a lot of colors and stuff. It can make those images extremely large versus the JPEG format. So that's another thing that I like to change with screenshots, going from a PNG to a JPEG. So here you can see this image is like 2.3 megabytes, which adds up quickly. So what we're going to do is launch the terminal. I'm just using Alfred to launch the terminal. So notice my terminal window is customized. If you want more details on that, let me know down below in the comments section. But you'll also notice my computer name change is there as well, which is cool. So we're going to paste in the following command, and I'll have this down below in the description. Defaults right, com.apple.screencapture, disable shadow dash bool true. So in other words, disable the screenshot shadow. The second command, again, down below in the description, is defaults right, com.apple.screencapture, type JPEG. So changing the file type to JPEG, and then press return on your keyboard, and then kill all SystemUIServer, and then return. So that just tidies everything up, make sure you're good. And now we can try and test it out. So let's open up settings, and let's again take a screenshot of settings, just the window by itself. There we go. Let's open it. And what do we see here? Yes, so this is that image, no shadow this time, but it is just of that single element. So you can compare the two. Here's the one with the shadow on the right side, and here's just the image without the shadow on the left side. So you could definitely tell there is a difference there. Depending on what you're doing, you may desire that or not. The cool thing is super easy to change it back. And then also if we do a get info, you can see that that screenshot is no longer a PNG, but now it is a JPEG. Disable saving desktop and documents to iCloud. If you go to the Finder menu bar and select Settings, you're going to see an option to sync desktop and document folders. Now, hopefully that's unchecked already, but during the initial setup process for macOS, Apple will prompt you to do this, to enable this feature. Basically what this does is store your entire desktop and documents folder contents within iCloud. I don't think I need to tell you why that's a bad idea, but it can quickly fill up your iCloud storage space. So Let me show you how this works. I'm going to go ahead and enable it just to give you an idea of how this whole thing works. So when you enable sync desktop and document folders, you're going to see this. The items on this desktop on this Mac have been moved into a new folder called Desktop Mac Mini in the existing desktop folder in iCloud Drive. So here it is. This is the desktop folder that's now stored on iCloud, and it's currently syncing everything within that desktop folder. You can see 49 gigabytes, and you can see in the status bar, I only have 45 gigabytes on iCloud available. So this isn't even going to work. It's going to fill up that storage space already with this. So this applies to both the desktop and your documents folder as well. In fact, you'll notice where those two items previously were in the sidebar under favorites, they're no longer listed under favorites. They're listed under iCloud. Even if you go to your user folder, you'll see desktop and documents is completely gone because that's been migrated over to iCloud Drive. So needless to say, I'm going to disable this. I want to show you what happens once you disable. So I'm just going to uncheck sync desktop and documents folders. You're going to get this message here. So your desktop and documents are currently syncing with iCloud Drive. If you continue, items will be removed from both folders. Okay, let's turn it off. And you can see immediately under your user folder, you get your desktop and documents back. So now what I'm going to do is move everything from that iCloud storage space. So documents in iCloud, I'm going to move that back to my local documents folder. So you can see documents Mac Mini, drag that back to documents local, just move. And you can see documents local, just like that. So same thing for desktop. There's desktop local. We're going to go to desktop on iCloud. And there we go, just move these back over to local desktop. So now we're all good. Long story short, most people probably shouldn't use this option. Set up iPhone mirroring. So this is a brand new macOS Sequoia feature, but if you go to settings, desktop and dock, and scroll down, you're going to see under widgets, iPhone. And this iPhone will be used for iPhone mirroring and widgets. So you choose your iPhone there. Obviously it needs to be logged into the same iCloud account. But if you have multiple iPhones, make sure you choose the right one. Once you do that, you just want to launch the iPhone mirroring app and it'll walk you through the whole setup here. So quick access to your phone apps. You can view and act on notifications, etc. Click continue. You want to go ahead and unlock your phone now to use it with this Mac. And then you can allow notifications. I'm going to do that as well. And iPhone mirroring is now ready to use. So click get started. You see the iPhone mirroring is locked. You can use Touch ID or put your password in. And then it's going to ask you if you want to require Mac login to access this phone. Choose authenticate automatically if you don't want to have to enter in your password every single time or use Touch ID every single time. So this is my iPhone right here. So I can use this right here from my Mac. And instead of my finger controlling the iPhone, I just use my mouse cursor like my finger. So I can do all the things that you would normally expect to do, launch apps, play music. And what's cool is music playback, as you can hear there, is actually playing back through my Mac speakers. So it's not coming or piping through the iPhone. It is going and being routed through your Mac speakers, which is awesome, right? But of course, that's not all you can do with iPhone mirroring. Like I said, you can launch apps, you can swipe between pages, you can edit the home screen if you want to do that. So let's just play around a little bit. Let's launch some apps and switch between apps. So here is the clock app. You can click the little home indicator to get back to the home screen, or you can use these buttons. Here's the app switcher. So you can quickly launch the app switcher. Let's get back home. And I can click that button to get back to the home screen. And let me show you, this is really cool. So you can, I'm going to take a screenshot here. You can drag and drop between your Mac and your iPhone. So I'm just going to drag the screenshot directly to the Notes app running on my iPhone, just like that. And I can do the opposite, right? I can drag this back to the desktop if I want to, just like that. Super awesome new feature. Set up iPhone notifications. So iPhone mirroring also works with notifications. So if you click notifications under settings, you're going to see allow notifications from iPhone, and you can see all the apps that you can allow notifications for from your iPhone. It's pretty cool. So let me test this out. So here are a couple of notifications from X. These are originating from my iPhone. You can see a little iPhone indicator in the bottom right-hand corner of the app icon right there. But you can see here, I can reply directly to that and send the reply. And that goes directly to X. Again, this is coming from my iPhone. I can even click this notification and it'll open right here within the mirroring session right here on my Mac. That's crazy, right? I know the word ecosystem is overused, but truly, Apple has the best ecosystem. Set up iPhone widgets. So yes, you can run iPhone widgets and display them directly on your Mac. So you just right click on the desktop, select edit widgets, and you see all the widgets listed here that are available for both macOS natively and from the iPhone. In the upper right hand corner of the widget editor, you'll see whether it's from iPhone as you see here, or if it's from your Mac, or sometimes both. So you can see this is from iPhone, of course, this Tesla app. So I'm going to go ahead and just drag this one to my desktop, and there's the Tesla widget. So you get details about that. The only bad thing about this, you can't actually interact with it, which is kind of lame. But it's going to say go to your phone to continue, but at least you can view details about your car or whatever the case may be. So that's a nice feature to have for sure. Enable Apple Intelligence. So in macOS Sequoia 15.1 and higher, you get Apple Intelligence. So you just go to settings and then click Apple Intelligence in Siri and then enable a little switch there to enable Apple Intelligence. So let's launch the Notes app. You can see one of the Apple Intelligence features in action, the writing tool. So I'm just going to write a quick sentence here. And you're going to see this writing tools option. Highlight there, and look, you see that little button? Click that. Here's your writing tools. So you can use AI to change the tone of this sentence. You can use it to proofread and more. And that's just the tip of the iceberg as far as Apple Intelligence is concerned. There's also summarized notifications and eventually ChatGPT integration. Enable Siri. So if you don't have Siri enabled already, just go to Settings, Apple Intelligence, and Siri and click the Siri switch to enable it. And then you can change your keyword to listen for, so you have those options there. But in the menu bar, you're going to see the new interface, the new UI right here. And you have the type 2, you know who. Let's go ahead and talk. What time is it in Guatemala? Now ask a follow-up. What's the weather like there? And it knows I was talking about Guatemala. So better contextual response. Now, if I disable Apple Intelligence but keep Siri enabled, you're going to notice it reverts back to the old school Siri. So you definitely don't want that. You definitely want Apple Intelligence enabled. You don't get the better contextual conversation flow or any of that. So it's, yeah, I recommend if you're going to use Siri to keep Apple Intelligence enabled. It just is a better experience already, but it's going to get much better in the future once ChatGPT integration is released officially to macOS Sequoia users. Configure Type to Siri shortcut. So under Settings, Apple Intelligence, you'll see Keyboard Shortcut. And you can configure this to your liking, but by default, it is a press of the Command key twice. And that brings up right there the Type to Siri interface. Of course, you can just click in there as well if you want to, but this is a quick way to start using Type to Siri where you can just type out your queries without having to speak. And just like it recognizes context when using your voice, it also recognizes context when using Type to Siri. Enable Dictation. So open the Settings app, scroll down to Keyboard, and then you're going to see Dictation. So all you do is enable this switch right here. And if you have a newer MacBook or a newer Magic Keyboard, then you're going to have the little microphone button on your keyboard. And all you do is you press that button to enable dictation. It's really easy to dictate text on macOS, comma. The cool thing is that you can also type and interrupt the voice dictation session and then just pick up when you're ready to pick up. So when I stop typing, you'll see the dictation indicator just like this. Pretty awesome. Customize Safari start page. So open the Safari app, and the first thing you're going to see is the start page. So you have your favorites, privacy report, reading list, recently closed tabs, iCloud tabs. There's a lot here, and it's all fully customizable. So I'm going to show you how to do just that. So in the bottom right-hand corner, click the edit button, and you'll see all the various sections. You can actually click and drag any of those sections to reorder them. You can uncheck a section if you don't want it to appear, just like that, and get this thing customized to your liking. You can also change up the background image, and we're going to show you that. So when you click here, you can enable the background image, of course. Then you have these various ones to choose from, but you can also click the little plus button and then add your own image. So I go to Documents, the wallpaper here, choose, and bam, that looks really good, doesn't it? It's a great way to customize Safari to your liking. Switch to Safari Compact View. So on the theme of customization, you can customize from the traditional layout in Safari to a compact layout. So if you go to Safari settings and you click tabs, you're going to see tab layout. So you want to click compact and notice what you see different there. It combines the address bar with the tabs. And you can click always show website title and tabs if you want to make it easier to find what you're looking for. So not only does the compact view combine the address bar with your tabs, but it also tints the Chrome based on the website you're on and blends that with the top of the Safari window, including your tabs and everything. It looks great. Not every website has compatibility with that, but the websites that do look really cool because it just sort of blends in, sort of bleeds into the top tabs when you have the compact tab setting enabled. Of course, not everyone will like this because admittedly, it is a pretty big departure from the traditional view. Enable Safari status bar. So when you mouse over a link, by default, you don't see anything because the status bar isn't enabled. So go up to the menu bar, go to View, and select Show Status Bar. Now you get the status bar on, and now when you mouse over a link, you're going to see the actual link, the URL, the slug, there in the bottom left-hand corner in the status bar. Highly recommend you do that. Enable Inspector and Source Viewer in Safari. By default, when you right-click on a web page in Safari, you only see basic commands like back and reload page, for instance. So go up to the menu bar, go to Safari Settings, and then click where it says Advanced. At the bottom, click Show Features for Web Developers, and then feel free to close out of the settings. So now when you right-click, notice the options you get. You get Show Page Source, which is obviously very handy if you want to view the HTML code of the website and view all the images and all that. And then also there is the inspector. So if you right click, you can inspect an element and get details as to how a web page was actually designed. Enable file vault encryption. So go to settings and then go to privacy and security, scroll all the way down, click file vault, and then you can turn it on here. Chances are you may have already turned this on during the initial macOS setup process, but basically File Vault encrypts all of your data. So you can allow iCloud to unlock your disk. I recommend going ahead and checking that and then clicking continue, and it will go about encrypting your drive. It shouldn't take too long, but it depends on how much data you have on the drive. I personally enable File Vault on all my Macs, but especially on MacBooks because they can be stolen or you could just lose it. So you want to have peace of mind knowing your data is encrypted. Configure Time Machine backups. Another thing that I highly recommend is enabling Time Machine. Now, I'm going to go to Disk Utility. Here's my external drive, my media drive that I store all my Final Cut projects on. I'm going to create a separate volume just for Time Machine. This is an 8 terabyte drive, by the way. I'm going to call it Time Machine APFS, and then go ahead and click Done. So now I have a separate volume specifically dedicated to Time Machine, and it will grow as needed based on the storage space I have available on the drive. So let's open up Settings, and under General, click Time Machine, and then click where it says Add Backup Disk. And that will allow you to add the volume that we just created within Disk Utility. So you can see here Time Machine, and they're both on the same disk, so they both are going to show the same amount of available storage space. They're just two separate volumes. So click Setup Disk, enable Encrypt Backup, put in your password, and then re-enter your password, and then provide a hint. And if you want to, you can set up a disk usage limit depending on your circumstances. I don't personally do that. I just let it use whatever space is available and then click Done. The nice thing about Time Machine is it'll automatically purge any backups as space is needed. And you can see the backup frequency, and you can exclude certain locations. It automatically excluded media, which is the other volume on that same disk. Click Done. And now in the upper right-hand corner, you should see the Time Machine icon in your menu bar. You can just click it and select Backup Now, and that backup starts. So preparing to backup, and it's backing up. I highly recommend using Time Machine. If you'd like a more in-depth tutorial, let me know down below in the comment section. And finally, use AirBuddy for a better AirPods experience. So if you're using AirPods with your Mac, which a ton of people are doing, then I highly recommend AirBuddy. Now, full transparency, this is created by Guy Rambo, who is a friend and who also has contributed to 9to5Mac in the past. But that being said, that is not why I'm including it on this list. This is a $13 app, and I like it because not only does it allow you to share your Magic Keyboard, your Magic Mouse with multiple Macs, it also has just one really cool feature that I just love, and that is this right here, the ability to see your AirPods status just by holding your AirPods open near your Mac, just like you can on iPhone. What can I say? But I'm a sucker for aesthetics like this. I think it looks great. And I'm not saying Apple should Sherlock this, but this almost seems like a native feature. So ladies and gentlemen, that has been my look at over 60 macOS getting started tips. Let me know, were there any tips that you didn't know about that you plan on using in the future when setting up your new Mac? Let me know in the comments and thumbs up if you appreciate this video. This is Jeff with 9to5Mac.
Special thanks to Mac Stadium for sponsoring 9to5Mac.
Orchid Desktop is a free Apple Silicon virtualization program that allows you to easily create and manage macOS virtual machines locally. It's the best modern Apple app development solution for DevOps and developers. And it includes support for Apple's latest OS, macOS 15 Sequoia. Create and manage macOS virtual machines locally with an easy-to-use GUI. Simply set your display resolution settings, choose your OS, and launch your VM. It's that simple. And with Orchid Desktop, there are no subscriptions, trial periods, or sneaky fees.
Click the link in the description to download Orchid Desktop today.
Be sure to check out these hand-picked macOS related videos as well.